So just making a poker video here. Try to put somebody on some hands. So you know, it is tricky putting people on hands because it's hard, right? But you have to understand, during COVID in 2020, I needed a hobby, and I like playing video games. So I wanted a hobby where I can make money. So then I started to play poker. I did read several books. I read every gambling book actually that the library had prior to 2020. And I forget the name of this one book, but it was really good. It taught me how to basically have the psychology of a professional poker player. And basically nine-handed, well, if you're early in position, if you're under the gun right after the big blind, you're the first to act, you would need a stronger hand than when you're last to act. When you're last to act, you could get away with a weaker hand because you have advantage, like position over your opponents. Right, so that's very important. And then another premise of the book was you kind of classify people on their aggressiveness. So like if somebody's not very aggressive, they would be considered a mouse, right? So the mouse was the one that you need to be the most afraid of when they're betting, because that means like if they're quiet all the time, like if they're never betting and then all of a sudden they show aggression, then usually they have at that point, right? They usually have a hand. Whereas if somebody's really aggressive all the time, they're very difficult to play. But at the same time, you can't always have the hand, right? But they know how to maximize their opportunities. So if you look up online, if you look up the poker outs, pot odds, implied odds, and expected value, those are the four things, and that you should. Well, I guess the fifth thing would be psychological tells. Psychological tells would be like how often they bet, how much they bet, and, how long it takes them to bet, how likely they are to raise. So I'm just gonna fold here now because they could have. I do have the king high flush possibility, but this player possibly has the ace or already a flush or a straight right here, and the diamond would have been a draw, right? So I think they have the winner. The better has the winner, I think, this hand. So they did have the ace high flush. So see, that's just experience playing poker, right? Like just how they put aggression on the turn. That indicated to me that they most likely. I didn't think they had the ace queen, mind you, but I thought that they had the ace, right? So, but them having the ace, there's no point in me trying to chase the second best hand when I'd lose to the first best hand, right? So that's an example where you pull the parachute and you get out of the hand virtually unscathed. Like I lost very few chips. I could have lost a lot more, especially if I would have hit the diamond, right? You know, if you're a new player and you hit the diamond there, you get the king high flush, you're gonna be the king high flush, and you're gonna be ecstatic, and then you're gonna be too aggressive. You're gonna make a call that because he trapped perfectly, right? Like he made a weak bet on the river, that he was afraid of the higher straight. That type of bet. That's how I interpreted the bet was that he had the straight. He would have had the low straight, but it would have been the higher straight that would have beat him. But he had it crushed with the nut high flush. So he was hoping for a raise at that point. Unless, they're ranked 9, so they're ranked professional, right? So they should be seasoned enough. Like if they were, like say, a level 3 player, then they might not have realized the value of the hand, and they would have been a little too apprehensive. But like somebody that's level 9, they're ranked professional, so they would have almost certainly were hoping for a raise on the river. They're hoping he went all in. So that's why one of the psychological tells is how often they raise. And then the emoji, they use an emoji, and emoji is one of these things. And then, well, if you're at the casino, their body language and their tone of voice, right? Because like, if they're like all in or all in, right? Like you can hear when I said all in the second time, how excited I was in my tone of voice, where I likely would have had the winning hand just based on my tone of voice. right? But that being said, you could have a reverse tell, right? So you could simulate that you're excited when you're not really excited. Like I watched Daniel Negreanu do this. I don't know if it was manufactured, this scenario, but he put the opponent on a hand, and he's like, I forget what hand the guy had. It was something like pocket kings. He's like, oh, you got kings, right? And since he put him on the hand and he bet, the guy ended up folding because he called his hand. He's like, well, hey, if the guy sees understands my hand and knows what I have, as if he doesn't have me beat since he raised. But he didn't in that scenario. But like that's just being a good poker player. Once you get experience, you're able to pull off things like that. Oh, and I lost it. I got lucky. There's 46 cards there, and he only had 8 cards to make his hand. So 8 divided by 46, right? Like that's almost 1 in 6 chances of him hitting that card. So that means he was going to lose 5 times out of 6, and I was going to win 5 times out of 6, and he was going to win 1 time out of 6, based on the straight. But I think he did have 5. He had more outs than that, but for the straight outs, he only had 8 outs. Let's see what he had, because I think he could have beat me with a higher 2 pair, I think. Okay, so this is where's my 3-4? Oh, because he did have I think he had I forgot what he had, but if he had a pair, then he could have he would have had 2 additional cards for the pair. Then he would have had 3 additional cards for the higher 2 pair, because I had the low 2 pair, but the 3 and 4. And then he would have had the 8 cards for the straight. So he would have had 13 outs out of 46. So that's basically 1 in 3 times he should win in that scenario. I should have won 2/3 of the time. Second fold now. So that's basically what I don't really use implied odds too often, like ever really, because it's too speculative. And when you use implied odds, you're likely to. Don't get me wrong. Like after a while, you're going to get very seasoned and you're going to get experienced with it. But when you don't really know your opponent, you're gonna have an opportunity to screw yourself over basically, because you're gonna expect them to bet, but then they check, right? Meaning, so I guess it's not too bad, or they could bet less than what you're expected for the expected value. But if they check, it's not too bad, because that means, like just say you call, like now on the flop, there's an open-ended straight draw or a flush draw. They call, they bet big, and then you call because you implied odds. You're thinking you're going to bet if you hit, you're going to make a big pot, win a big pot, right? So if you do that, and then they check, you get to see a card for free. So in that scenario, it's not too bad. But if they still bet, or they bet higher than what you expected, then you're becoming more desperate. And so sure, with the implied odds do go up, because you're going to win more if you do hit. But the odds of actually hitting are very slim, right? Because on the flop, if you have a 4-card flush, that means you're aware of 47 cards, and only 9 of them are flush cards. So that means your 39 cards make it so you lose, and only 9 cards make it so you win, right? So that being said, you might have a low flush. So sometimes when you have a 4-card flush, somebody has a higher flush. So I would, until you're more experienced as a player, I'd stay away from implied outs, or unless you have experience playing them, like their tendencies, then I focus more on, like, so here's an actual natural flip. I always include these. So once you have more experience with a player, then you can make a more like your educated guess gets increased in value, basically. I lose almost 100% of my flips on this website. I'd never, like, if this was a real money website, I would only ever play money, because I lose 100% of the time, almost. I'll just show you right here. This is a 5 million, like this. I don't really care, so I'll just show you here. I'm just gonna go to. I'm just gonna leave it. It doesn't matter that doesn't matter to me. This one, it's the entry level tournament, so I don't care if I win or lose. But I'll just show you here my ranking. So I win 30.85% of the time, and it's 5-handed. So luck is 20% of the time. If I was relying on luck, I'd have about a 20% winning percentage. But I'm 30%, so I win 1.5 hands out of 5 that I play, basically. So I'm making somebody else lose 0.5 hands. So here's so Continental. I played 2 Continental tournaments and I won one of them. I played 1 World Tournament and I didn't finish in the money. But I'll just show you here. Where is it? Oh, there's the Continental one. So I just gotta find it here. Oh, the challenges. Bobby, so where the heck is it? I'm just gonna pause it for a second. Okay, so here's where it is, achievements. So you can see I don't get aces too often because I've only had them cracked 3 times out of 6 times. But you can see how I've had 25 bad beats, and how I've won more with 7 deuce than I have with pocket aces, because they rip me off on the site, basically. You can see how I've had 7 4 of a kinds, and then 108 full houses compared to like so few aces cracked, right? That means the odds on this website are legitimate, because you should get pocket aces once every 217 hands. So the fact that I had 100 full houses, I've only had my aces 3 times, right? They don't stand up. They don't hold up with me. Because the thing is, there's artificial intelligence, right? So you understand your behavior. So if I was just to install, and maybe the next time I play later on today or tonight, I'll install a new app that I've never played, and you're gonna see me dominate. I'm just gonna absolutely put on a poker clinic, because the artificial intelligence for that particular app doesn't have tendencies. And then after about 1,000 hands, they kind of figure out tendencies, and then I don't do as well. Happens every site I play on. I absolutely just put on a clinic for the first. It makes sense, right? Because they don't know who you are, right? So they want to get your business, and they want you to like the app. So they make you get lots of ace. You get ace king, and your ace king holds up, and you win. Or you hit and you win, or you get aces lost. You get a lot of big hands when you start a new app. But I played probably 6-7 apps, poker apps, and that's been the tendency for every single one of them. And I scored off the charts for pattern recognition on my IQ test. So, like beyond genius. So I'm really good at recognizing patterns. That's why I'm good at poker. I'm also good at noticing the artificial intelligence system. And people setting me up, because I notice all changes in my biology. Like when I walk, and you see my tone of voice when I said my biology, that's a woman that just walked by me using brain computer interface. Brain computer interface is when you use a prosthetic. Your brain can control a prosthetic limb or a robotic device that can also hijack a human body. Because organized crime's aware of it, and so he only has 3 kings to make his hand here. Now he has 4 sevens. So he only had 7 outs, right? After the flop, 7 cards out of 47. Like, I'm usually more conservative with my outs as well, than, because I assume that I need top pair, right? So since I'm more conservative, that makes me a better poker player, because I'm less risky, so I'm more likely to keep my bankroll. So there are times where I do get, like, where I would have won a hit, but I end up folding. But very rarely that happens. But because, you know, for instance, if I had a pair of kings here, king 10, yeah, sure, there's the gut shot for the queen to make the straight, but I would assume that somebody has the ace, and they don't always, like on this side, this side is pretty weak, but if you're playing on a real money site, usually they have the ace, right? So if you hit your king and you're playing your king aggressively, your pair of kings, like just say you have a pair of kings, if you're playing them aggressively, then you're gonna end up losing long term a lot of money. Yeah, well, there's another opportunity. I used to on Poker Stars. I used to play 10 deuce every time for a tribute to Doyle Brunson, and I win pretty good with that. I win with hands that artificial intelligence doesn't expect me to win. I usually win the most with those hands for real money. Like, but a hand like pocket kings, I usually lose lots because the artificial intelligence understands I'm going to play the pocket kings, so I'm likely to lose with them. Or pocket aces. You know, you get pocket aces, and you know, if you got into, like, if you go versus pocket aces versus pocket kings, you're an 80% favorite. And so that means you're going to win 4 times out of 5, but lose 1 time out of 5. Right? So if you got into the habit of folding your pocket aces, like say 1 out of 5 times, like just randomly, then even if you're accurate, like say 12% of the time, you're going to be saving yourself 12% of your money. You're going to be losing less often because you're finding your skill, right? Any skill you develop in poker. The thing with poker is you want to try to maximize your wins without getting greedy, but primarily minimize your losses is the main thing. Because you could be on fire all day long, and it just takes one hand, and then you could be like winning for like 10 hours straight, and then that one hand you can lose all of your hard work, right? So half the skill in poker, I'd say 2/3 of the skill in poker is to minimize your losses. Learning how to smell smoke before you get burnt by fire, so to speak, because and not getting greedy, right? You gotta always assume. Right now, there's a potential 4 of a kind, right? So it's online, and you can see how I've had 7 4 of a kinds. Right? So 4 of a kinds do happen quite frequently on this website. So if you're at the casino, the odds of them having a 4 of a kind are remote, because there's only very few, like there might be 2 tables at the casino. So, but online, there could be 100,000 tables going at once online. So the frequency of pocket or 4 of a kinds is more frequent because there's more tables being played. If you know my drift. Right, so that online you experience bigger hands because of that, because there's more hands being played. So the odds of hitting a 4 of a kind or something like 4,100 hands to hit a 4 of a kind. The straight flush is 72,193, and then a royal flush is 649,000. I've had 5 royal flushes in my life, and one of them I misplayed a royal flush. I tried trapping, and it was brutal. Like, so learn from my mistake. Never try to trap with a royal flush. You're better off getting them to fold with showing the royal flush, but you're so excited to have the royal flush that you want to show it, that you're likely to not play perfectly. But you're better off getting the fold without having to show the hand. And because what happened, I had I think I made the flush on the turn with the royal flush redraw, and so I checked. He didn't bet, and then I checked on the river, and he didn't take a stab at the pot, and so I ended up making like $2. It was brutal. It sucked. But every other time I double up on it. So if you're playing against somebody heads up and you make a pair on the flop, you're about a 70% favorite. So if you have, say, the eight deuce like I had there versus ace king, there's a lot of guys, what they do with ace king is they go all in on the flop regardless if they hit or not. So it does make sense mathematically if you call if you have a pair, like you, as long as the odds are legitimate, then you're gonna win 7 times out of 10 and only lose 3 times out of 10. So it's a good long-term decision to make. Only if you're heads up in a pot with them, especially if you know a player's tendency. Like, so in that scenario, what would happen is they might bet pre-flop aggressively because they have these kings, and so you like if you're in late position, you might call, or if you're forced to on this site, if you already have money invested in the pot, like the blinds go pretty fast on this site, so you might reluctantly call. Then if they check and you hit, then you might want to go all in, and you're just hoping that they don't have a pair at that point. Because if they raise aggressively, they usually have an ace, and sometimes they have a pocket pair to rain on your parade, but not too often. You got to understand the tendencies. So with the psychological tells, right? Like, so now just say that player was a mouse, and so they aggressively bet pre-flop, and then they show aggression on the flop. Then at that point, even if you think they're bluffing, you might want to just fold because you don't want to take the chance, because like they're playing so passively that they're showing aggression that they likely have it. So it does give them an opportunity to bluff slightly against you one time, right? But then once been twice shy, right? So the next time they try the same move on you, then you might, after a while, you got to call them. Right? If not, they're just gonna take you apart. So the best thing to do is, if you're playing online, is or even at the casino, if you want to avoid the most aggressive player at the table, because if you avoid the most skillful player at the table, you avoid them, unless you're trying to get better. But you want to try to learn through other people that are playing them and see hands. And once you see the type of hands that they're playing that session, right? Because one session you might play against this player, they might be bluffing lots, and then next session they might be never bluff. And so you just gotta want to see what their tendencies are, and if somebody's showing you like an ace 4 when they have a pair of aces on board, and you fold your ace 10, like that does kind of choke you up a bit. But next time you realize you don't need a strong hand to call that opponent. Whereas if you see the ace king, you're like, wow, I made the right decision. So you know you need a stronger hand against that particular opponent. That's basically the rule of thumb. So the player to my right's been aggressive, so they can't always have the best hand. So I'm going to call them this time. But I didn't get lucky, because that was likely that they were going to go all in. I think they might have the 8 this time. Like, they're really aggressive. And I just have a terrible hand. If you're in their situation, like this hand, he should automatically put me all in. I think he's bullying me now, so I'm just. He should have automatically put me all in, because I had so few chips. Right, but once you're in the money, it's a little bit easier to risk, because just on basic poker, so stay tuned because I'm in the process of making a poker book called Mathletes, and it's going to cover poker outs, poker outs, pot odds, implied odds, expected value, and psychological tells. Thanks for watching.